हेलो एवरीवन एंड वेलकम बैक टू योर चैनल लॉपीडिया। सो आज के हम अपनी वीडियो में कवर करेंगे द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ चिल्ड्रन फ्रॉम द सेक्शुअल ऑफेंसेस एक्ट 2012. So today we'll be understanding what the act is all about, what are the basic things that you must remember with respect to the act, what are the various definitions given under the act, and what is the 2019 amendment and how it has impacted the overall act itself. So let's quickly get started. So the very first question जो यहाँ पे आता है is what is this legislation all about? So this is the very first comprehensive law to provide for the protection of children from offences of sexual assault, sexual harassment and pornography. So ये एक ऐसा legislation था जो कि expressly deal करता है with respect to the crime committed against the children and what all punishments will be provided in that particular case. Further, the Act provides stringent punishments graded as per the gravity of the offence. So, depending upon the nature and the extent of the offence, इस Act में punishments provide की गई हैं, which would even go to the extent of providing death penalty as well. Further, the Act provides for establishment of special courts for the trial of such offences, so that the trial is done in a speedy format. Now let's move forward and understand the basics. So the basics are that the said act defines child as any person below 18 years of age. So this is the standard definition which you need to keep in mind. Further, the act includes punishment for the abuse by a person in position of trust or authority, including public servants, police, armed forces, management or staff of an educational or religious institutions. So ये act ऐसी भी पनिशमेंट्स प्रोवाइड करता है जहाँ पे पीपल इन पोजिशन ऑफ ट्रस्ट एंड अथॉरिटी टेक द एडवांटेज ऑफ देयर पोजिशन एंड commit these heinous offences on children itself. Now, firstly, we'll be looking forward at sexual assault and the punishment. So, as per the Act, whoever commits sexual assault shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which shall not be less than 3 years, but which may extend to 5 years and shall also be liable to fine. So, Act में sexual assault की punishment क्या है? 3 to 5 years. Accordingly, Act ये भी बताता है that when we are considering or punishing a person, what is a sexual assault? A sexual assault would basically mean whoever with the sexual intent tend to touch the private parts of the child or makes the child touch the private parts of any such person, or the person does any other act with the sexual intent which involves physical contact would also come under the ambit of sexual assault, and in this case the punishment would range from 3 to 5 years along with fine as per the section 8 of the Act. We have a very recent judgment which was delivered by the Bombay High Court. However, the judgment was criticized widely across the nation. Why? Because the Bombay High Court in its judgment interpreted sexual assault as only skin to skin contact with sexual intent. So basically Bombay High Court ने इस particular judgment में ये कहा था that sexual assault would be interpreted only when there is skin to skin contact. However, Supreme Court stayed this particular Bombay High Court verdict and expressly stated that giving such interpretations would be bad law, and this is not a correct interpretation of the definition of sexual assault. So we need to remember that. Let's quickly move forward. So next is punishment for sexual harassment. According to the section 12 of the Act, जो कि punishment prescribe करता है, whoever commits sexual harassment upon a child shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 3 years and shall also be liable to fine. And the section 11, if you read of the Act, basically defines that what is the ambit of sexual harassment, what all are we including. हम क्या क्या include करेंगे when we are punishing a person under the ambit of sexual harassment. So a person is said to commit sexual harassment upon a child if a person with sexual intent does any of the below acts. This would come under the ambit of sexual harassment. यानी कि repeatedly or constantly follows a child, entices a child for pornographic purpose, shows any content to the child for pornographic purpose, so this would also be included under the ambit of sexual harassment if all of the act given below are done with the needed intention. So apart from that, आप section 11 पढ़ सकते हैं that lists down the various criterias of what all you can include under the ambit when you're providing the punishment for sexual harassment in this particular act. So the punishment ranges to 3 years along with fine. Now let's move forward to another very important and a crucial component. जब आप ये act पढ़ रहे हैं, इसके कुछ dimensions हैं, like sexual assault की क्या punishment है and what is sexual assault. Secondly, sexual harassment की क्या punishment है and what is sexual harassment. And the third and the very important dimension जो यहाँ पे ये आता है, that using a child for pornographic purposes, what is it, what is the definition, and what are the amendments done to the same by the 2019 Amendment Act. So सबसे पहला और सबसे crucial section जो you must read यहाँ पे is section 13 of the act. So this particular section basically defines or lists down for you the criteria when you are checking that what would be included to punish the person under the act. So according to the section 13, whoever uses a child in any form of media, including program or advertisement telecasts by television channels or internet or any other electronic form or printed form, whether or not such program or advertisement is intended for personal use or for distribution for the purposes of sexual gratification, which includes, now what all it includes, the representation of the sexual organs of a child, usage of a child engaged in real or stimulated sexual acts, thirdly, the indecent or obscene representation of a child, and in such a scenario, a person will be guilty of the offense of using a child for the pornographic purposes. So after understanding the crucial concept, let's move forward to knowing the punishment for the same. Now, punishment for using a child for pornographic purposes. Now, this I have covered according to the 2019 Amendment Act. So all the information that I'm covering is after the amendment done in 2019, which has significantly enhanced the punishment. So firstly, यहाँ पे you can read section 14(1), which states that whoever uses a child or children for pornographic purposes shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 5 years and shall also be liable to fine, and in the event of second or subsequent conviction, with imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 7 years and also be liable to fine. Let's quickly move forward and understand what is the punishment for storage of pornographic material involving a child. Yes, it is punishable according to the act. So ना ही कि using a child for pornographic purpose punishable है according to the act, the storage, the distribution, the handling of such information or such material that involves a child is also punishable according to this very important act. So firstly, you can read section 15(1) यहाँ पे, which basically states that, if you will read, that any person who stores or possesses pornographic material in any form involving a child but fails to delete or destroy or report the same. It's very important that any person who possesses such material has to report the same to the authorities. But in case of a failure of the same, with the intention to share or transmit the material of the child pornography, shall be liable to fine of not less than 5,000 rupees, and in the event of second or subsequent offense, with fine which shall not be less than 10,000 rupees. Let's quickly move forward to the second subsection. So this is also according to the Amendment Act. 15 subsection 2 basically talks about any person who stores or possesses pornographic material in any form involving a child. The starting is the same as per subsection 1. For transmitting or propagating or displaying or distributing in any manner at any time except for the purpose of reporting. So कोई भी बंदा जो कि in possession है of such material उसको ट्रांसमिट करता है फॉर डिस्प्लेइंग द सेम और डिस्ट्रीब्यूटिंग द सेम इंटेंशन रखता है एक्सेप्ट फॉर द फैक्ट जहां पे वो रिपोर्ट कर रहा है टू द सूटेबल अथॉरिटीज शैल बी punished with the imprisonment of either a description which may extend to 3 years or with fine or with both. So यहाँ पे जो कि person store कर रहा है and is in possession of the material with the intent of transmitting, displaying or distributing the same, यानी कि वो ऐसा एक person intention रखता है कि मैं ये material को distribute कर दूं, would be punished with an imprisonment which may extend to 3 years or with fine or with both. Now moving to your subsection 3, which basically states that any person who stores or possesses the pornographic material in any form involving child for commercial purposes, so यहाँ पे आता है commercial purposes, shall be punished for the first conviction with imprisonment of a term which shall not be less than 3 years but which may extend to 5 years or with fine or with both. And in case of a subsequent conviction with imprisonment of a term which shall not be less than 5 years which may extend to 7 years and shall also be liable to fine. Now, understanding that why we needed to amend the act in 2019, ऐसे कौन से reasons थे due to which we had to amend the act? It was because of the incidence of child sexual abuse cases demonstrating the inhuman mindset of the abusers that have been consistently rising in a country like India. Also, children are becoming easy prey because of their tender age, physical vulnerabilities, and inexperience of life in society. Thirdly, stringent measures to deter the rising trend of child sex abuse in the country were needed. That's why the act was amended in the year 2019. Now, this also amended section 4(1) of the act, enhancing the punishment for the same to 10 years. Further amendments have also been made that 4 subsection 2 add हुआ था after the 2019 amendment and section 6 was substituted for the below given section. So, in section 4(2), what was stated that such a person shall be punished for a term which shall not be less than 20 years but which may extend to imprisonment for life, which shall mean imprisonment for the remainder of the natural life of that person and shall also be liable to fine. So in further incidents of sexual assault जो कि commit होता है on a child below 16 years, law ने यहाँ पे कहा है कि उस केस में punishment would be minimum of 20 years extending to imprisonment for life along with fine. So section 6 basically deals with those instances in which the crime is committed by police officers, armed forces, whoever being a public servant or a staff of jail, remand home, protection home, observation home. So ऐसे कोई भी person जो कि है in position of authority, अगर वो एक act commit करते हैं, those form of the acts have been categorized as aggravated sexual assault, and in this particular case the punishment shall not be less than 20 years but may extend to imprisonment for life, which shall mean the imprisonment for the remainder of natural life of that person and shall also be liable to fine, and the provision goes on to provide even death penalty in these cases. So with this we come to the end of this particular video. So please share this particular video with your family, with your friends, with anybody to make them aware about what are the provisions in law for the same. And as we always say, until the next video, stay home, stay safe and keep learning.